Welcome to the Lila Life Show. I am your host, Linda Andrews, and I am pumped to be with you today. Thank you so much for tuning in. We appreciate your support on the show. And as always, like, subscribe, share, pass this on to a friend if you receive any value. And today I want to talk a little bit about the importance of habits and patterns and you creating from the lens of lifestyle design your dream week. And last but not least, how this feedback loop, or if you're familiar with the concept of spiral dynamics, where life is this spiral, you're learning, you're growing, and in that spiral motion, going up and up and up, where these setbacks end up being these learning opportunities. So we'll dive into each of these. I think it's said statistically that 95% of our life is run by habits and patterns. I can remember a younger me having this realization, a very visceral realization. Wow, so much of life is habits and patterns. And at the time, I found that a bit frustrating. And eventually, this became liberation because if much of our life is being run by subconscious habits and patterns, that means the intentional shifting of habits and patterns can literally rewire your life and your experience. And that is something we get the opportunity to experiment with and learn and grow and ebb and flow with each day. And so, a first step in this is assessing what are your habits and patterns and are they still serving you? Because of the nature of the subconscious things getting locked in, say from your childhood or the way you've seen your primary caregivers or family of origin or the environments you've been raised and lived in, where these habits and patterns have come from, taking a moment to step back and say, do these still serve me? Why do I have these? And what could shift about these habits and patterns? So that's a step one. I think our life is a simple way and place to look at some of these. You wake up, likely you use the bathroom, you brush your teeth, and you may go on and about your day from there. And this is a moment to also introduce habit stacking where, okay, you're going to the bathroom, you're brushing your teeth. That'd be a great time if there's something you want to get in the habit of doing to add in because you're always already in the habits and patterns of that moment. And so, an example literally that I've adopted in that little trifecta of bathroom, teeth is dry brushing. And that's a technique that helps you move the lymphatic system with a soft bristle brush that you do in a certain pattern. You can look it up. I also have a blog post on this at the lilalife.co blog. So check that out. And again, like then every day, okay, teeth brushing, bathroom, dry brushing, that becomes an expression of that time. It is habitual. Don't need to think about it. And then, okay, let's stack that fourth habit. You can do this and find that sequence that works for you, given some of your own life constraints. Often they're around time and money. And so finding ways to make it very, very little time and as little money as possible can reduce the friction. And this idea of friction is really important also because there may be aspects of your life, of your business that you're creating friction, that a simple habit or pattern, or in the business world, this is where we talk about standard operating procedures or systems that can start to make some of these elements be turnkey. And I mentioned spiral dynamics, but when you do this over time, there is that compounding effect. And a lot of people that I talk to, they don't know where to start, and they don't know where to start likely because they're not doing it yet. And so you have to start by just taking the first attempt at doing something. So, for example, if you're an early stage founder or you're doing something new, or maybe you're really experienced, but you're wanting to fine tune some of your habits and patterns and systems. I don't know where to begin. I don't know where to start. Let's take finances. Oh, I'm so overwhelmed with money. I don't know where to start. Where do I start? Well, you start by first looking at it. And so let's say you're going to set up a system that's weekly financial review. And the first day you do it, you don't even know what to do. A question I really like here is if I did know what to do, what would I do? And you would start by looking at the bank accounts. You would start by, if you do have a QuickBooks or some accounting software, looking there. The beginning of anything, like literally picture yourself as a little baby who's stumbling, walking for the first time. It's not going to be great. It's not going to be good. It may be horrible. And just giving yourself that grace that the first time we do anything is not usually perfect. And the reason it becomes better and more efficient with time is because you keep showing up at it, you keep doing it, you keep optimizing it. And the reason that's able to happen is through that intimacy, through that attempt at figuring it out and then continuing it. And so, I think that millennials are funny. I'm not trying to stereotype a whole group, but hey, let me just do that. Where you may not know how to do much in the life skills area for whatever reason. And then, okay, you have to learn it, but you have to learn it from beginning to end because for whatever reason, you may not have known it. And there's beauty in that because you can have that beginner's mind. You can figure it out. Now you have a general understanding of it, and then you can make that better. So just taking into account some of these elements, what I find so freeing about Dream Week is it's literally a blank sheet of paper, Sunday or Monday, whatever you use as the start of your week, going out those 7 days with zero things on your calendar from a potential wake up time and wind down or bedtime that works for you. And what I want you to consider when you do this exercise is that it's not just what works for you right now, it's what you want to work for you, right? There's usually a transitional aspect of it. You're doing this exercise likely because something's not working for you and you need to make some changes. I like to give 2 to 3 weeks a lead time on the implementation period. So when you start with Dream Week, you take this blank slate of paper, you're looking through, okay, what could my dream week look like? What could the hours I'm working look like? What responsibilities do I have that I'm going to continue to have? What do those look like? I'm going to implement this, say 2 to 3 weeks out. So you pick that implementation date. But the trick here is that as you develop what that dream week would look like, you start slowly implementing it over those 2 to 3 weeks because there is an adjustment period. Obviously, each person's a little different. You have some of your own give here, but I like to look for where and what is already being neglected. Maybe it's workouts, maybe it's nourishing foods, maybe it's food prep, maybe it's the project you've been wanting to start, but you haven't actually been making the time for. It's whatever you're giving yourself that eye roll. Oh, I really wish I was doing XYZ and you're not. In the dream week, you want to make time for those things. And taking into account some common pitfalls, like sometimes it takes time to transition into work. Sometimes it takes time to transition into the next activity. Sometimes there's actually transportation time. So keep those all into account as you're setting up this dream week, being realistic. And again, where can you reduce friction? So where are you bouncing all around? Where can you stack some different things that make sense to stack? One that's a little simple, I think, so underrated is errands. Like, I don't need to be bebopping around to do all these errands one thing at a time, one day at a time. Can packages all go out, one day of the week? Yes, maybe the returns aren't all going to happen at one time immediately, but if I know on Saturdays I do packages, for example, Saturdays I do packages at noon, I have a little corner in the office that I can put my packages, and then Saturday I'm taking them. There's also the opportunity as you're looking at this, what can you eliminate? What can you delegate? These are really important. And what can you streamline? And that streamlining is where you can reduce friction. So the concept of reducing friction is so fun for me because it's literally looking at what is annoying, what am I complaining about, what frustrates me, and what would be some ways that could reduce the friction. Oh, I'm driving out and doing this again. Well, stack those items so that, again, Saturday is your errands day and you do packages and you also pick up household items. Some of this can be so technology driven where you can set up some different automations, and we're so lucky in some ways because it's just that moment of review, right? You just take that moment of review to review the automation and then, oh, yeah, it's good and it's done. And instead of taking 5 hours, it takes 5 minutes, the power of tech for better or for worse. So these are some thoughts that I'm sharing about habits and patterns, how that can overlay into your dream week, accounting for that transition time, looking for areas where you need to reduce friction. And part of that also is what I'll say recruiting stakeholders. It's literally who in your life do you need to have conversations with about some of these adjustments? Hey, my schedule is going to look like this, and this, and I need you to help with this, and this. Are we in agreement on that? Do we need to find someone else to support us in this? Where's the compromise? But making sure to be well thought out in what you're already setting up for yourself as you're going into those conversations. And you'll be surprised at how much that itself can reduce friction. So, what happens as you implement this, right? You've carved out time for the habits and patterns that are going to help you be on track for the person you're becoming, that the space that you've created in your calendar, making room for the person that you're becoming. And then, lastly, understanding that this is all a process and a journey, picturing again that spiral upwards where the feedback loop, the optimization, the adjustments, right? What are you learning? What can you implement? What changes need to be in place? And giving yourself that grace for it starts with the attempt. It starts with the shitty job. It starts with it not going well, and it gets a little better and a little better and a little better. And you can see these 3 questions, my favorite 3 questions. If you want to save money on coaching, on consulting, on whatever you're making spends on, and just do this every day, multiple times a day, what's working, what's not, and now what? And getting in the conscious habit of even doing that review of what is working, what's going well. It's to celebrate those wins. Not everything is going poorly. Okay, what's not working? Where is that friction? Where is that resistance? Where is life giving me a big stop sign that I need to look at? And then now what? Now, what are those new actions, those new commitments that you can commit to and make those changes? And then that review process, that regular review process to assess how are these changes working out and what else do you need to shift from there? Remembering it's an ongoing process. This doesn't just happen overnight, right? Changes and implementation take time, but you want to have an idea of where you're going as you're putting those into effect. And again, paying attention to what's not working. Those what not working moments, I love those. It feels like just life screaming at me and saying, not one more moment, not one more second. No, no, no. And then it's a moment of pause, a moment of reconsideration, and a moment of review to make those adjustments of what's going on. When the screaming what's not working is happening, I do believe you need to have grace for yourself in those moments, because likely what's about to happen is transition. Sometimes we get to be consciously choosing those transitions. Sometimes those are thrust upon you. You know, I'm a nerd with transitions. It's like a little moment of pause, of breath to reassess, to see like whether it's forced on you or not, what needs to adjust, what have I learned from the way things have been going, and how can I make these shifts in my life right now? So I hope that this is what you needed today. Again, please like, share, subscribe. We have some beautiful interviews coming up over the next couple weeks. And remember, Lila Life, we are the intersection of business and well-being. And so we take this seriously. I believe in the power of business fundamentals, especially if you find yourself as an entrepreneur, but good old financial management, if you're not, is very powerful as well in your own personal life. And then well-being, what do you need? What are you looking for? What do you need in your life? What is your intuition or yourself asking for? And I have this belief that if each person, including myself, could be living in our sweet spots, living in our gifts of what life, what the world is asking for you, there's a lot of things that can shift. Business is beautiful to me as an expression of life. There are many problems in the world, and business is solving problems. Business is hyper focusing on a problem to solve, right? For value, meeting a need for value, receiving the capital for that exchange, and then being able to continue to solve more problems because there's things that come up in the day to day. So just remembering that if you find yourself in a problem solving mode, great, you're an entrepreneur and that's a part of the journey. Many blessings to you, and I'll see you next time on the Lila Life Show. Take care.